It's playoff time in Tennessee. Starting now, the field cuts in half across the state until we have a winner. And for Virginia, that's going to start next week. So just take a minute, soak it in while it lasts, because we don't got much of it left. We got all your football playoff preview talk up ahead, and we'll recap Week 11 of high school football in the Tri-Cities area. Joining me is Jeff Birchfield, Brian Woodson. I'm J.D. Vaughn. Welcome to episode 12 of this year's 6 Years Media Sports Huddle. We'll get right to the action in a minute, right after this word from Lazy J Farms.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle and all-natural pork for 3 generations on the family farm in Fall Branch. Their blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef. And the butcher shop is local, farm to table, and 100% authentic. This is the way your grandfather shopped for me, with steaks cut to order, quality assured, and ready to ship to your door. Open Thursday through Saturday on Bloomingdale Road in Kingsport. Come see us.
Well, Jeff, how about a game that was as good as a juicy steak from Lazy J Farms? Dobyns-Bennett gets the win over Science Hill 28-25. Back-to-back region titles for the Indians. What a game this was.
Yeah, you and I were both there. You were taking some photos and I was writing up the game there, and it's just a terrific ball game, like you said, all the way down to the wire. A couple of calls could have gone either way that might have changed the game. There was a pass interference call where it didn't get called, where the players got tangled up, and then a ruling on a punt that actually touched Dobyns-Bennett player, but his rule that he was blocked into the ball there. So those were huge. That being said, I'm not trying to take anything away from Dobyns-Bennett because they made the big plays when necessary to win the game, and Levi Chappell, the quarterback, just played such a smart game, ran the ball well, threw the ball well. And then on the other side, Lane Clement for Science Hill, like 270 yards almost. So, he's had a big game throwing the ball.
Yeah, terrific game. And another player that Joey Christian pointed out to me was Xavier Goodwin, made 11 tackles on defense, had a couple of big catches. One of them was a little short pop pass, turned into a 16-yard touchdown, a go-ahead touchdown, to give Dobyns-Bennett the lead for good, as it turned out. And, of course, Noah Raines with the game-clinching interception in the final couple minutes. Dobyns-Bennett able to go in victory formation. After initially Science Hill stopped them on 4th down, the Hilltoppers had a chance, but Noah Raines in the right spot to intercept Clement and secure the region championship, Jeff. What's Science Hill have to do going forward?
Well, Science Hill's got another tough test, which we'll talk about a little later, against Oak Ridge. Main thing they've got to clean up, they've made some mistakes all year long that's really hurt them, and stuff. And that's the thing that's been most frustrating to Stacy Carter, the head coach. Science Hill's got a lot of great athletes. You mentioned 11 tackles. I think on the other side, Darren Hill had 11 tackles for Science Hill, and then Malik Anderson, terrific athlete. You saw him run through some tackles, score a couple of touchdowns. They've got some really good receivers. Branson Newberry had the long 67-yard touchdown play from, Clement. And then also Tyler Holder had a 38-yard touchdown catch, and Tyler Holder had an interception. He's probably been Science Hill's best players right here coming down the stretch, playing so well on both sides of the ball. One thing's really hurting Science Hill, though, their best offensive lineman, Sawyer Necessary, injured, season-ending injury, and also Ian Mathis. And Ian, everybody knows him as a running back, but he's probably even more valuable playing back there at safety, for Science Hill.
Yep. And I got the privilege to see Ian. He was in his wheelchair, all had his brace on and everything, but, he was still cheering his team on from the sidelines, so that's great to see. Ian, we're thinking about you. And, of course, as for Dobyns-Bennett, all that preseason talk about 6-4, 7-3, well, here they are. They're 9-1, better overall record than at this time last year, and they're back-to-back region champions. And they'll host Farragut for the playoffs. Brian, you went up to Gate City. The Blue Devils took care of business quickly in this one.
Yeah, Gate City just came out. They had to punt once in the first quarter. I think that upset them because they went on a roll from there. Zane Reed threw 3 touchdown passes to 3 different receivers. Walker Hillman had 2 touchdowns. Parker Jenkins had a touchdown catch and then returned the opening kickoff of the second half for another touchdown. So they pretty much dominated on offense. Defense, they did the same thing. The Wise Central got about 40 yards total offense. Really didn't have any opportunity to really do much of anything. And Gate City just really looked good, and they were ready for this week's game.
Yeah, so definitely no trap game there for the Blue Devils. And Jeff, how about your alma mater, those Happy Valley Warriors, 10-0 region champions?
Yeah, they just keep on playing so well. First undefeated season for Happy Valley since 1997. They've scored a record number of points, 517 points. They've scored 51.7 points per game, over 10 games if you take that. They were up early 14-0. Looked like they were going to roll against South Green, but you know how tough it is down there. I mean, You work down in Greenville, you know how what a tough place to play it is there on Rebel Hill. And anyway, South Green got a block punt sort of end of the first half. They turned it in, converted to a touchdown, 20 seconds left in the half, and then Happy Valley goes up, scores another touchdown, gave McDougal his second rushing touchdown of the day, and they go up 27. At that point, it looks like maybe the game's over, but again, South Green, they had a long touchdown pass, 67 yards for a touchdown, but, Happy Valley's able to close it out, get the first downs they need to run the clock out, and like I said, in the season, first undefeated season since 1997, and first region title since 2016.
Wow. Just an incredible season for Happy Valley. Think about where they were 3 years ago, or really just 2.5 years ago when they started 0-3. Boy, have they come a long way since then. Speaking of coming a long way, the Hampton Bulldogs, 3-win season last year, but not this year. The Bulldogs are 9-1, Region 1 1A champions after their win over Cloudland. Here's Andrew Smith.
I appreciate you guys letting me come on and do this remotely this week. Obviously, some schedule conflicts kind of got in the way, but the Region 1 1A championship, Hampton and Cloudland. Hampton a winner 54-22 over the Highlanders. And it was just a fantastic evening, especially the start for the Hampton offense. They got the ball 5 times in the first half, and they scored all 5 times. Led 36-22 at halftime. Senior quarterback Connor McKinney really had a great game. 237 yards, 4 total touchdowns. He ran for 43 yards as well. And his favorite target was Brock Shelby. The Elizabethan transfer, 174 receiving yards, a couple touchdowns, a couple big ones there. Mixed in the outing for Shelby, but yeah, it was a big win for Hampton, and big loss for Cloudland there as well. You go into it, a region championship on the line. It's something I talked to one of the Cloudland assistants about. Was the big swing that could come from that game for them. And he was like, yeah, we win. We're the 1 seed. We're back here. Everything's all good. Now we sit, and it's the 4 seed. And they got hit the road. Tough matchup for them going up down to Coalfield in the 4 seed. But, yeah, tough road for them. But big win for Hampton. Very balanced rushing attack. They had 5 rushers, including McKinney and Shelby. As well as Isaiah Belcher, Peyton Townsend, and they were just very balanced. No one guy was really hammering the workload, but I think in a game like that, you're perfectly content with that. If you're Hampton, and now they've got the postseason here, and a chance for them to not have to worry about going too far down the road after their 30th conference championship in program history.
Congratulations to the Hampton Bulldogs on the win. West Ridge, Brian, so close to Jefferson County. They come up just short, 28-21.
Yeah, they had their opportunities. Jefferson County got their final points in the third quarter, had opportunities to add to it, and just kept having mistakes. And West Ridge got the ball down the stretch, got the ball down to the 22-yard line, I believe, and then were stopped. So they didn't quite get there, but they played right there with them. Ethan Amick had 138 yards, and Justice Hilton had 118. So they had 2 other running backs that had Devin Brown had 67, and Brody Fields had 54. So they really ran the ball well. But Jefferson County, their quarterback was terrific. Mason Henderson was 9 for 11 and 3 touchdowns, and the Jackson kids, Sean and Donovan, are also difference makers, receiving and throwing the ball and catching the ball and running the ball. So, but West Ridge was close, but just couldn't quite get over the top there at the end.
Just so close for West Ridge this year. How many times have we seen that? David Crockett, however, gets the win. They're going to the playoffs on a high note. They get the win 49-7 over Cobb County. What a game for A.J. Wynn, who's playing on both sides of the ball now. 9 tackles on defense, 4 touchdowns on offense. He runs for 3, throws for another, and he returns 2 kickoffs for touchdowns, one for 89, the other for 99. What a huge game for A.J. Wynn and the Pioneers. They get the win over Cobb County. Volunteer, a 62-13 winner over Sullivan East. Believe it or not, Blue Prophet with a touchdown catch, and the game is tied 6-all at the end of the first half. But in the second half, Bryson Christian, Lincoln Wilson, that volunteer offense, they finally get their act together, and they're going to the playoffs. They set a new program record for wins. They are 7-3. First time ever Volunteer has won 7 games in a season. Big shout out to Coach Jeremy Wagner and the Falcons. Jeff, Unicoi County going to the playoffs with some momentum. A 55-22 winner over Johnson County.
Yeah, totally dominated that game. They're up 42-0 in the second quarter, so that got me looking more at Unicoi County, what they've done over the course of the season. Of course, Kobe Jones, he's become the program's all-time leading passer with over 5,000 yards. This year alone, 1,687 yards. But here's the most impressive stat for me, 21 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. And then Blaze Rice, he had 148 yards against Johnson County. He's up to 1,243 yards and 18 rushing touchdowns. Then you got Avery Hatcher, who's been just terrific receiver there, 48 catches for 918 yards. And then Aiden Evely, just a solid player with 27 catches, 261 yards. And Alex Lannenham, he's got 5 receiving touchdowns. And, of course, those 3 guys, they'll be playing also on the Blue Devils basketball team coming up, as will their best defensive player, Brady Simmons, who has 99 tackles, 14 of them for a loss, an interception, and 2 fumble recoveries this year. And the last kid, maybe a highlight, Isaac Harris, he has 74 tackles, 15 for a loss, and forced 2 fumbles this year. So, a lot of tough kids on that Unicoi County team.
And then no wonder they're 4 points away from a 10-0 record. Just incredible run. Brian, Rycove and Twin Springs, a couple of big wins, a couple of big conference wins for the both of them this week.
Yeah, they both rolled pretty well. Twin Springs beat Thomas Walker 48-12. Clay Ross is his usual self, 167 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, also threw for 102 yards. Isaiah Kiner continues to be a terrific freshman. Brennan Weddle. Julian Pasquale had an excellent game, 126 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jake Compton returned a kick for a touchdown, a block kick for a touchdown. So they really played well against Thomas Walker to get ready for Rycove this week. Rycove played J.I. Burton and snapped their 2-game losing streak, winning 40-7. They led early in the third quarter, 28-7, and just rolled from there. Just that running game was churning in the regular season home finale for the Eagles.
Yes, I hate to say these were not trap games,
No.
were they? No. Also, Providence Academy gets the win over Zion Christian. Shout out to freshman Cam Blanton, the quarterback, 3 touchdown passes. Cole Blanton, of course, on the receiving end of most of those. So Providence Academy will make a trip to the playoffs next week. They will be riding some momentum. Northview Academy gets a shocking win to me over Cherokee, 31-13, holding Jaden Weston at just 12 yards rushing. That honestly, made the Chiefs kind of one-dimensional in that regard. Tennessee High, a 41-7 winner at Daniel Boone. The Vikings will be home for the playoffs finally for that first round next week. So that's going to wrap it up for week 11 of the high school football season. We're going to take a look at the playoffs and the final week of the regular season in Southwest Virginia right after this.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle in all-natural pork for 3 generations. Our blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef that ships from our store directly to your freezer. This is the way your grandfather shot for meat, only now we wrap it, seal it, and send it right to your door. We have plenty of options to pick from, and they're all fresh and natural. Just visit our website at lazyjbeef.com and choose your package. We'll get it straight to you.
Well, when it comes to game of the week, the name Super Bowl kind of comes to mind. And, Brian, we think about it, the Scott County Super Bowl, this year's edition, quite a bit on the line. Even if it's not a conference championship, it's for the number 2 spot in the Cumberland District. So just a lot on the line when Twin Springs and Rycove get together this week.
Yes, this is a big one here for both teams, especially Twin Springs, because of the way the BHSL rating system works. Even though they're 6-3, if they finish 6-4, they're probably not going to make the playoffs because the teams they beat have a combined 12 wins. So and one of those had 5 of them. So they really have to have this win to get to the playoffs. Rycove, of course, wants to keep winning and they're already in, they're going to be in the playoffs. So both teams are that's really the big deal for Twin Springs. Rycove just wants to go out there and beat their rival. Both teams will come in. Rycove's going to try to run the ball like always. Twin Springs will try to get the ball to Clay Ross, let him do a bit of running and passing. They got Julian Pascual who's trying to run the ball. He's not the biggest guy, but he can. Once he gets out in the open, he's pretty hard to catch. So it's just going to come down to the in the trenches, protecting Clay Ross, giving him time to throw, find the right receivers for Racco, blocking like they always do, and open up holes for their 3 or 4 headed monster at running back. But this should be a lot of fun. Nicholsville will be a very crowded place on a Friday night. It'll be chilly and it'll be a fun atmosphere. Racco's won the last 3 in the series, but Twin Springs won 11 and 13 before then. So it's been a real competitive series, and this should be a really fun game to watch for anybody that wants to see a good high school football game.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe you could finish, second or third in the district and still not make the playoffs. That's just, that's just how different the TSSAA and the VHSL are.
Mm-hmm.
So just, I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's so much more on the line this week for Twin Springs in this game. Jeff, Science Hill on the road for the playoffs this week. They go to Oak Ridge. Last time they beat Oak Ridge was 1970, so it's not. I don't get Maryville vibes from this necessarily. Of course, they haven't played in 13 years. But what does Science Hill have to do to have a chance to move on here?
Well, like you said, even though it is a long losing streak and they've not played them that often, but Blankenship Field down there at Oak Ridge is a tough place to play, sort of an intimidating place. Biggest thing Oak Ridge brings, the Wildcats have a lot of Division I prospects on their team, especially their tight end, Malik Howard. This guy, 6'4", 225 pounds. 24/7 Sports has him as a 4-star prospect. He's got 48 catches for 724 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's got both the size and speed where he's a nightmare for either a linebacker or a defensive back, to match up with him. And then their quarterback's very experienced with Blaine Stansberry. He's hit 137 and 212 yards for 1,895 yards this season, 20 touchdowns. He also has ran in 6 touchdowns. They've got a pair of really good backs. Demillion Porter's got over 1,000 yards rushing, but now he's been banged up a little bit. He's had some knee problems and all, so they're relying more on Wayne Gibson right now. The problem with that is Gibson's also their best defensive player at linebacker.
Playoff games, Stacy always interested. Of course, last year you guys won a classic against Cleveland, so these matchups are always fun for the fans for sure.
It is, and I think it's fun. You don't want to travel, of course, but it's fun to go to Oak Ridge with all the history and everything going on. Playing on that field once, I think, in the playoffs. I think it's the only time I've been there, but neat place to play. A lot of history at Oak Ridge. They got a really good football team, so it's going to be exciting. We think we're playing pretty well if we can get out of our own way on the mistakes and stuff like that. So we're excited about it, and we're just going to go down here and see what we can do.
But they've just got a lot of talent. Jarrell Jimerson, he's another good receiver for them. Caden Stewart, the leading tackler, and then up front, Amonte Bishop, the nose guard. He's really just a guy who can dominate up front.
Yep. Dobbins Bennett, of course, the Region 1-6A champions. They will be at home until they lose. That's how the TSSAA playoffs work. Odd number years, odd number regions get to host the playoffs until they lose. So Dobbins Bennett presumably could host all the way to the state championship game should they keep winning. It starts this week. They host Farragut, a 3-7 Farragut team, but don't judge Farragut by its record, because a 4-6 Farragut team, I'm reminded 4 years ago, came up to Johnson City and beat Science Hill in a 57-56 game. So don't overlook Farragut just because of their record. They started 0-5, but they played a tough schedule, and they've won 3 of their last 5 games to end the season.
Our kids, our core kids, they like each other. They like each other. They like being around each other. They like ball, and they love Dobbins Bennett football. That's why they play so hard. So that's kind of what we're leaning on and leaning into. This thing will go as long as they want it to. So we gotta, hopefully, like I said, hopefully that's a mindset of our kids, and we'll play on as long as they want to. There's no bad football teams in 6A playoffs. There's across the state. There's nobody bad that made the playoffs. So they're a very good football team that can really cause problems. So we've got to we got to be good. We got to be good. We can't take them lightly, and that's what the playoffs is. You can't. There's nobody bad. It just gets the pool gets shrunk down as you go through the rounds, and They just get better and better as you go along. Yes, playing at home, I think, I think does matter. I mean, how much does it matter? We'll see. When you talk about long bus trips, it can matter a whole lot more. But, we need, as we always do, as it gets in, it seems like sometimes our fan base, our crowds kind of wane off as we make it through the playoffs. We need a big crowd. We need a lot of support for these kids. These kids have played extremely hard every game that we've had this year. They are really something that Kingsport can be proud of, and with that, we need the throngs of Kingsport to come out and support these guys and cheer them on, and really create a bigger advantage being home field than we normally get.
So Dobyns-Bennett hosting Farragut this week. The Indians will be home as long as they keep winning. So a big game Friday night in Kingsport. And Brian, it's not quite the playoffs yet for Gate City, but it feels like it as they go to Ridgeview, West Ridge, of course, on the road at Maryville. Not exactly an enviable spot, but if West Ridge, you got to keep the ball on the ground and just to have a chance in this one. And Gate City, it might as well be a playoff game, right?
Yeah, Gate City's going to go to Ridgeview. The winning team will probably get the second seed behind Union, and that's a good thing because you want to avoid Union in the second round if you win that first game. Gate City's 8-2. Ridgeview's now 8-1, or 7-2. I'm sorry. Ridgeview's 8-1. They only lost 2 Unions, so they're a really good ball team. Jalen Deal's a terrific running back. They have the best punter in the area. I promise you, Connor Smith, who's already committed to Arkansas. Gate City will look to. They're going to be. They like to run the ball a lot. Gate City can do a little bit of everything. Zane Reed will throw the ball. Walker Hillman probably needs about 5 yards to get to 1,000 for the regular season, so he should have a good game in this one. They'll be focused on him, so they need to throw the ball to the receiver. They got a good receiving core to throw the ball to, so this should be a fun game. There's a lot on the line. This one, they're both going to the playoffs, but it's going to depend on where you get seated, who you're going to play. You don't want to play Union. You really don't want to play Graham. Graham's really playing well down the stretch here. So it's going to be an interesting ball game. Like I said, Gate City can do is still have to contain the Jalen Deal and just try to keep the ball as much as possible on offense, and they can do it with Reed. Zane's been really improved this year from the start to the finish, and the receiver, the defense has been playing terrific. Nicky Omens is committed to New Hampshire of all places, and he's been really good for him all year long. He's just a dominant inside, so there's going to be a lot of focus on him too. So it should be a good game in Rose Hill.
Wow. Yeah, and then the other one, West Ridge on the road. I got to think you have to keep it on the ground if you're West Ridge, and you've got to chew that clock.
Yeah, playing Maryville, that's our only hope is just keep the ball on the ground and keep the ball away from them. They've won 9 in a row, and the closest decision they've had is 25 points. So this is going to be a tall task. West Ridge is going to throw the ball. They've run for 3,518 yards this year and thrown for 149. That just seems unbelievable. But Ethan Amos has 1,467 yards and Justice Hilton has 1,078. So, and they combined for 32 touchdowns. So they're going to be focused on those 2 kids. And Maryville's also offensively. Will Jones is a terrific quarterback. I can't pronounce this very well. Cohen Baddeley is a running back who's talented also for them. And they've been able to throw the ball this year, which is unusual for them. Tony Beauford's been a really good receiver for them. So they're going to have to keep the ball on the ground. They played Maryville in the playoffs in their first season, 2021, and lost 49-0. And the last time they got to the playoffs, they lost to Bradley Central 42-0. So Western is looking to be more competitive and hopefully maybe pull a surprise. And the only way they're going to do that is to keep the ball on the ground against Maryville.
Sure thing. Just like a well-oiled machine, Maryville is.
Yeah, they are.
And then a couple of games involving Carter County, a couple of playoff games in Carter County, I should say. Hampton hosting Rockwood at Cloudland because Cloudland's on the road. So Hampton's going to be up there against Rockwood. And Elizabethton, the number 2 seed, playing host to Gibbs. And here's Andrew Smith.
Couple Carter County teams at home for the first round here. We'll start in Class 4A. Region runner-up Elizabethton welcomes Gibbs into Citizens Bank Stadium. And this is not going to be an easy task for the Cyclones. This is a very good Gibbs team. You look at what they did in Region 2. They beat a playoff team in Halls, and they've also handed Anderson County its only loss in region play this year, the eventual region champions in the Mavericks. So this will be a big one for Elizabeth, and obviously you're in the postseason, all of them are. And I am going to really key in on how Bryson Blevins, the freshman quarterback, handles this situation for the Cyclones. Last week didn't go great. How does he bounce back? It's postseason. How does the freshman handle this new environment that he'll be in? Certainly helps he'll be at home. And then on top of that, Elizabethton just cannot afford a slow start. You saw what happened last week against Greenville. It was bad. They got behind early and it just became an avalanche. You can't afford to do that again. I don't know if you'll quite get to that level of avalanche, but you certainly feel a lot more comfortable if you're up, 14-7, 20-6, than if it's, 14-0 gives middle of second quarter. So that'll be two things I'm keeping an eye on there. And then elsewhere, Hampton playing a home game at Cloudland against Rockwood. Rockwood went 6-4 in Region 2. They were the 4 seed in that region. These teams, a little bit of familiarity in somewhat recent years. It's the fifth time they've met in postseason history. The last one being 2021, a Hampton win there. And this is a Hampton team that's on fire. They've won their last 6. They lost that game in September at Happy Valley. Wasn't pretty. They've rebounded nicely, as you would hope they would. A bunch of veterans on that team, and this is where Connor McKinney needs to shine. He shined last week, and I expect him. If Hampton wants to go as far as they want to go, I think a lot of it rests on Connor McKinney. This is why he came back to Hampton, right? This is why you try and finish what you started from freshman year. Is for moments like these in the postseason. And obviously he'll have, other guys he'll need to lean on too. That offensive line, Brock Shelby, who I mentioned earlier, had a great game against Cloudland. Isaiah Belcher, Peyton Townsend, even Jaden Kuhn may be getting in the mix a little bit there too. But yeah, you're going to need this offense to continue to build on what it was able to do last week, and your defense get a couple stops. And this is a Hampton team that has high expectations. They don't want to just be here for the sake of being here. They want to make a bit of a run. When I talked to Michael Lunsford last week after the Cloudland game, he was adamant about that. That we don't want to just be here to be here. So these kids have worked too hard for that. So yeah, that'll be a big test for Hampton there to open the postseason.
A couple of other local playoff games, one of which, Jeff, your alma mater is hosting Tellico Plains, trying to get over that playoff hump. And then Unicoi County at home against Sweetwater. A couple of, let's be honest here, a couple of tough games.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier you can't really look at the records this time of the season because Unicoi you'd think would be, favorite going into that. But now Sweetwater's 6-4, but they've won 4 of their last 5 games. Great tradition down there. They're 3-time state champions. Got a really good running back in Ty Fitch, who's like over 1,163 yards right now. Then Jackson Powell, the team's second leading rusher. He's also a terrific outside linebacker. Got a good quarterback there in Nolan Dacus, and he's got several good receivers he can throw to. Isaiah Stiles, who had a big game against Scott County, both had a touchdown and a pick 6 that sort of sealed that game. You got Jeremiah Parvis, who's another good receiver, and Gus Campbell. And then on the offensive line, Hayden Campbell, he's getting some looks from different colleges. I know he went up and visited Pikeville College, this past weekend. Then you switch over to Tellico Plains. Tellico Plains actually beat Sweetwater a little earlier in the season in 2A, team beating a 3A team, and those two are big rivals, sort of the same as Happy Valley no-edged out Unicoi earlier in the year there. So Tellico Plains, the Bears, they're a good team, able to make a big comeback. And one of their recent games were down by, 9 points, less than 10 minutes to go, and then they come back and, won that game. They lost their last game to Polk County, who actually beat Happy Valley 13-12 in last year's playoff. The Polk County, even though they were able to win that, Colin Head, the quarterback for Tellico, able to throw a touchdown pass. Trevor Kilber, he had a at 10 touchdown receptions for the year. They've got a good running back in Jasper Hamilton. But, you know, one thing about Polk County, they were able to rush for 375 yards against Tellico, which should bode well for Happy Valley, you know, who is a run-oriented team. You know, you got Gabe McDougal, we talked about him with power, him and Tyler Bailey. And then you've got, with Happy Valley, got speed with Keelan Relaford. You know, they can switch it up a little bit. And Happy Valley's looking for their first playoff win since 2017.
Just two big games, one in Irwin and Warrior Hill this week. So Tennessee High, like we said, they're finally going to get that home playoff game. They're going to host Knox Halls in the first round. David Crockett in the playoffs on the road. They will be at Knox Central. In 4A, Volunteer and Cherokee both on the road. Volunteer at Anderson County, which came back to beat Alcoa. So Cherokee is now going to Alcoa for the first round. Johnson County on the road at Meigs County in Class 3A. And then in Class 1A, of course, Cloudland, the Highlanders on the road at Coalfield. Providence Academy in Division 2A, they are at Donaldson Christian for the opening round of the playoffs, their inaugural playoff, both under Coach Daniel Kilgore. Like we said, each week the field cuts in half across the state, and it's going to cut in half until we have a winner. So that's going to wrap it up for this week of the Sixers Media Sports Huddle. Get out there and enjoy some football while we've still got it. For Jeff, Brian, Andrew, I'm JD. So long.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle and all-natural pork for 3 generations on the family farm in Fall Branch. Their blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef. And the butcher shop is local, farm to table, and 100% authentic. This is the way your grandfather shopped for me, with steaks cut to order, quality assured, and ready to ship to your door. Open Thursday through Saturday on Bloomingdale Road in Kingsport. Come see us.